taking that elevator ride up to the top of the Voyager of the Seas, September 2022, a 14-night Arctic crossing cruise, going from Copenhagen, Denmark, over to Boston, Massachusetts, bringing the Voyager of the Seas back to the U.S. after it had spent the summer over in Europe. This was right after the cruise restart. So if you think back to 2022, the pandemic, masks and protocols and all of that stuff that we hopefully never ever see again in the cruising industry or anywhere else for that matter. But the cruise lines had to figure out how to navigate all of that. And the Voyager of the Seas was, it was kind of, I think it was actually technically the last ship to restart of the entire Royal Caribbean fleet. And it was over kind of in the European area. And spring of 2022, they restarted it out of Copenhagen. It spent summer doing all of these cruises all into, all around Europe, down into the Mediterranean, etc. September, it was time to do the transatlantic crossing, bring the ship back to the U.S. Once it got back over to Boston in September of 2022 on this cruise right here, it spent some time, a couple months, going out of Boston up into Canada, and then eventually, of course, it went down into the Caribbean, and then, on from there and so on. So 14 nights, that's the longest we've done on a cruise up to this point. At the time that I'm putting this vlog episode together on January 20th, 2025, we have a 10-night cruise booked on Princess, so that'll be the second longest. But this 14 right here on Voyager is the longest we've ever been away on a ship. A transatlantic is half sea days and half port days. And on this cruise, we had one port day in Kristiansand, Norway, and then we had a port day in Akureyri, Iceland, kind of a day and a half sort of like Reykjavik, Iceland, and then a day where we actually got off in Qeqortoq in Greenland, a day where we cruised through the Prins Christians Sund area of Greenland, which was, you don't get off the ship, but you were sort of dedicated to that area. And then, of course, over from Greenland over into Boston, and then, out of Logan Airport and fly home to Orlando. So it was a good cruise. That summer was also an awful lot of luggage disruption, and it hit us. Our flight out of Orlando that morning of embarkation was canceled. Literally the day we were going to fly out of Orlando, we got the email from Lufthansa that morning that the flight had been canceled because of a pilot strike. And then all of a sudden we were rerouted through Atlanta and then through Amsterdam all the way up to Copenhagen. And the luggage made it all the way up to Amsterdam, but the Scandinavian Airlines flight from Amsterdam up to Copenhagen, it didn't make it. So had to deal with that. But had a good time on the Voyager. I love the Viking Crown Lounge. This was one of my favorite areas of these older Royal Caribbean ships that are eventually going to be phased out for other, newer big Oasis class or Icon class or things like that. But the Viking Crown Lounge is kind of cool because you can just sit up here and have a drink, and you got a commanding view of the rest of the ship, all of the water and the scenery around the ship, and you can obviously see where you're going, where the ship is cruising to and things like that. So Viking Crown Lounge is a favorite of ours. A great place to get a drink. Most of the Viking Crown Lounges that we've experienced have had a bar. I think there was Serenade of the Seas, I think, was probably the one that's coming to mind. The Serenade, for some reason, did not have a bar. They had taken the Viking Crown Lounge on that ship and turned it into like a nightclub kind of thing, which was a little strange. But all of the other ships that had the Viking Crown that we've been on, from what I remember, they had the bar. And as you can see this from this little activity they had going on in here at the beginning, kind of the video clip and everything, they were doing Latin dance class in here, whatever. We've seen countless things over the years in Viking Crown, bingo, you name it, all kinds of stuff in here. DJs playing at night, live, musicians and entertainers playing. It's a great space on the different Royal Caribbean ships to use for a variety of things, but I just like, bar, get a drink, and just enjoy the view. So like I said, one of our favorite areas on all of the different Royal Caribbean ships that have them. It was a little disappointing on Serenade of the Seas in June of 2023 to see that it did not have a bar. because we went in there during the day on that ship to record some video and walked in there. I was like, where's the bar at? But yeah, Royal Caribbean Voyager, the Seas, 14 nights, Arctic crossing cruise. And this was probably about the first third of the cruise, kind of early on when this video right here was recorded.